everybody. Let's go. Let's get it up. Come on, let's go. Get some energy going. No sitters allowed. Stand up, Mia. Come on. Good. Good. Are you awake yet? All right, give yourself a round of applause. Good job. Woohoo! All right, I'm awake. That's a good sign. Tomorrow I might need a little more volume. I'm not sure. Okay. Welcome everyone. I'm Dr. Yachter if we haven't met. We're going to go through some really interesting things tonight. How many of you guys are interested in learning how to go the distance? Living to 100? No? Raise your hand if you want to live to 100. Okay. For those of you who raised your hand, you're off the hook. For those of you who didn't, the question is why not? Why would you not want to live to 100? It's kind of a painful thought. Yeah, does it conjure up images of pain, suffering? Okay, well that's why we're having the workshop, so we can show you how to avoid that. Does that make sense? That's why we're all here, because you want to learn more and get healthier, and learn how to hit that silent button on your phone. Alicia! All right, just so you guys know, I love to mess with people. I like to just reach out and make sure that you're still awake with love, if that's all right. All right, you guys ready to get started?
Yeah.
So, along with health challenges, we know there are financial challenges, because when you lose your health, you lose your wealth. Yeah. So, what is really impacted here? So, one out of 9 over the age of 65 has Alzheimer's disease today. But once you go over the age of 85, it's what? 1 out of 2. And that's a big problem, because if you stop and think about that, we really didn't have too much of that decades ago. This is something that's getting worse and worse. Average people typically live 8 to 10 years after the diagnosis. And then what happens during that period of time? We have to go into an assisted nursing facility, or semi-private nursing, which ranges anywhere from $40,000 to $80,000 a year. So here's the problem: does Medicare cover that? No. So are we prepared financially to deal with that?
No.
They say by the year 2050, the Alzheimer's diagnosis is going to be 1 out of 2, and that's over the age of 65. Are we prepared to deal with this financially? That's a huge problem. So when does that thinking start? Right now. Because 10 years goes by like that. Before you know it, you'll be 55 or 65 or 75 or 85 or 95. And the question is, are you going to be able to take care of yourself, or are other people going to be taking care of you? Are you going to be a blessing, or are you going to be a burden? So I want you to watch this. There's a video here that kind of is designed to make you think and really future pace yourself a little bit. Hang in there.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide.
Yeah, it's time to decide. It's time to decide whether you live in the medical model and just wait for disease to develop and then treat disease, or you're living a core 4 model, which is creating health. You know, there's a difference between treating disease and creating health. Basically, one is just cursing the darkness, and the other one is lighting a candle. And so as far as being proactive, there's only 4 things that you really need to focus on, because health doesn't come from the outside in, it comes from what? The inside out. Function, spinal function, neurological function, fitness, nutrition, and education. Because when you stop learning, you stop growing. And again, it's growing of the body, the mind, and the spirit. And that's everything that we're going to talk about here. You know, Proverbs 14:12 says there's a way that seems right to man, but in the end it leads to what? Death. And what is that? That's our healthcare system today. Going to doctors, getting more prescriptions, more tests, more surgeries, more prescriptions, and all these things having side effects, winding up now being one of the leading causes of death. That's what that means. And you know, there's a time and a place for that, but that's our healthcare system. It's actually hurting today more people than it's helping. And that's what you're exposed to every time you go to your doctor. And they check your blood pressure and your cholesterol and your blood sugar. That's what you're living. You're living in that world right there. The Proverbs 14:12 world, the medical model. Romans 12:2. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Okay? Metanoia means a shift in your thinking. The scales fall from your eyes and you can see the truth. Really? Yeah, there are drugs there that can save your life in an emergency crisis situation, but there's not one drug, chemotherapy, or any procedure, medically speaking, that can create health, that can actually make new healthy cells. No, that only happens from the innate intelligence that God breathed inside of you. And that's what's liberated every time you get an adjustment. So we're talking about creating health tonight, and I'm going to give you a strategy on how to do that, because the Bible says we're supposed to get 80 to 120 years of good health, right? 80 to 120 years of good health. As long as everything works according to the owner's manual, the way that we were divinely designed. And that's what our teaching is going to be tonight. So how you age is a what? Is a choice. How you age is a what? Choice. You're not condemned to your genetics. If you haven't learned that yet, just about all the new scientific studies that are coming out are showing that your genes, your parents, mom, dad, or anybody in your family who had diabetes or cancer genes or high blood pressure genes or heart disease genes or any of these genes accounts for maybe 5% of what's going to happen to you in your life and your health. You got that? So we cannot accept that anymore as our fate. If it is to be, it's going to be up to us. If we're going to be healthy, it's going to be based on the lifestyle choices that we make now. What you're going to look like 10 years from now, whether you're riding a bike or riding a wheelchair, is going to be based on what you do when? Now. The choices that we make now. Because that's going to be 95% of what allows your body to function genetically correct. So, cardiologists and neurologists are coming, out of their crevices, out from under their tents, their rocks. They're coming out there and they're blowing the whistle. And despite the fact that they're taking a lot of heat for this stuff, they're really pinning the cause of most of all degenerative disease today and early death on one thing and one thing only. And that's called inflammation. What's it called? Inflammation. So this prominent neurologist, Dr. Perlmutter, said unbridled inflammation, rampant inflammation throughout your body, is a fundamental cause of early what? Death. Associated with coronary artery disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and virtually every other chronic disease that you imagine. Traceable back to how many things? One thing, inflammation. Which means if you could target all of your strategies, nutritionally speaking, to attacking this, guess what? You've nipped so many different things in the bud. You've killed so many different birds with one stone. Brad Weeks, medical doctor, cardiologist, said the injury and inflammation to our cells and blood vessels is what's responsible for your high blood pressure. It's what's responsible for the high cholesterol. It's what's responsible for the high triglycerides. He said it's caused by the what? High carb, low fat diet that was recommended for years by mainstream medicine. Where did we get that from? Our food pyramid. Yes, that's where we learned this. We learned it in elementary school, but then it was reinforced by our physicians telling us that we need to eat low-fat meats. We have to have a low-fat diet. Use fats and oils sparingly. And then the bottom part of the food pyramid, rice, cereal, bread, pasta, make that the majority of your diet. And this is what the neurologists and cardiologists are coming out today and saying that this has been causing inflammation. It's like a Brillo pad inside your blood vessels in your heart. And that's what's causing the inflammation, and that's what's causing the swell of the arteries, and that's what's causing your arteries to clog shut. Not the cholesterol and the fat, not high triglycerides and all that. I don't know if you guys remember President Eisenhower. Do you remember him? Okay. So he had a cardiologist which saw his cholesterol, saw it was a little too high. So what did he do? He put him on a diet and had all of his foods be free of cholesterol. He took all the cholesterol off his diet, put him on a low-fat diet, right? And low to no fat, high carbohydrates. And he checked him. Next time he did his blood test, like a month later, his cholesterol went even higher, right? And so what did he do? He gave him an even more stringent diet, right? No fat, zero fat, right? And checked his cholesterol levels a month later. What happened? Went even higher, yeah. And eventually he had a heart attack. He had a mild heart attack because of that. And they couldn't figure this out. This was back in the 1960s, and the research was already out. The Framingham Heart Study, the world's largest heart trial study, it was already out. And this was one of the cases where they were just scratching their heads. And this is the reason why. Because your body makes cholesterol for a really good reason. It's part of healing the arteries. It's part of healing the cells. And you need cholesterol. And when you rob the body of its fundamental healing elements, what happens? It's going to fight back, and it's going to drive the levels up even higher. It's amazing, isn't it? Whatever man tries to do to biohack the body, you cannot outsmart the body, right? The power that created the living universe created your body. Don't you think that intelligence knows a little bit more than a doctor or a drug that was synthetically created in a laboratory? So it doesn't matter whatever we do, your body's always going to have the last laugh. It's always going to try to balance things out. And you know what? Those test results may not be something your doctor likes, but believe me, it's really for better, not for worse. Some of you guys were at the advanced spinal correction class. You learned a law that's called the character of innate intelligence. How many of you guys remember the character of innate intelligence? And that law states that the forces the body's innate intelligence creates were never intended to injure or harm the living thing in which it works. The forces the body's innate intelligence creates, whether it's muscle spasm or fever or coughing or vomiting or raising your cholesterol or your blood pressure, whatever innate intelligence does in your body was never intended to injure or harm you, because that intelligence created your body. Don't you think if it made you, it's smart enough to know what to do to heal you? Yes or yes? Yeah, but we don't think about that because we're in the medical model, right? The medical model says that, no, your body's stupid, we need to do this, this, and this, right? And the core 4 model is, no. We honor the body's intelligence. We recognize there's a wisdom in there that's making our heart beating, our lungs breathe, stomach digesting food. Our bodies are making new healthy cells. The bodies we're sitting in right now are not the same bodies that we were sitting in last year, right? Body you're sitting in right now is not going to be the same one that you will be sitting in next year or the one 10 years from now. So we have an opportunity to work with that intelligence, because that intelligence always has our best interest in mind, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So why not work with that intelligence instead of against it? So whenever you have symptoms, or your doctor reads a blood test for you and says, we don't like this, this, and this, your first response as an educated, intelligent consumer should be, why? Why is my body doing that? You can even ask your doctor, why is my body doing that? And you may not like the answer that you get. It may be, well, there's a malfunction here. Well, there's a genetic failure here, or this and that. And they may lead you to doubt or walk in fear from that point, because then their training is, if you don't do this, this, and this, then what happens? What's the consequences? And that could scare the daylights out of you into actually following their recommendations, which you know has consequences. So what I'm trying to teach you is that there's a reason for everything. And don't go thinking that your body's stupid. you got to remember that it's smart, and there are reasons why. So this is not the best thing to do, to adhere to support the body's intelligence. Does that make sense? So what do we need to do? Well, we need to change that and start understanding what does work with your body. Interestingly, that they did publish this in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease, a medical journal. They found for some reason the older people who loaded up their plates in the study, and they looked at this with a control group, and they looked at people who loaded up their plates with carbohydrates, and they found that the people who did that, who had all these carbohydrates, bread, pasta, rice, cereal, that had 4 times the risk of developing what? Cognitive impairment. Because what happens when you have all these carbohydrates? Your blood sugar goes up, right? And then when your blood sugar goes up, now you're mixing that with the proteins in the brain that starts to develop this plaquing, right? And that plaquing that they found they had associated with Alzheimer's disease, the beta amyloid plaquing in the brain. So what they found is that it's not a good idea to load up your plate with carbohydrates. What is it a good idea to load up your plate with? Vegetables, and what else? Oils, and what else? Fats, yeah, and what else? Meats, yeah, meats, grass-fed meats or fish, right? Yeah, but this stuff, not so much. And they're starting to term this now type 3 diabetes. Alzheimer's disease, right? Cognitive impairment is pre-Alzheimer's. So when you're sitting at the table and you notice this high-level conversation going on that you're part of, and all of a sudden that you're starting to forget words or you can't participate and keep up with the conversation, look down at your plate and see what you're eating. Maybe that's something that's affecting you. It's quite possible. So what can we do to reverse some of that or make better decisions? Well, that white bread would be better served if maybe it was whole wheat. But today, it's hard to get a whole wheat bread without trans fats, corn syrup, and sugar. So what could be better than that is rye bread. But rye bread, it's hard to find a rye bread today without trans fats and preservatives. Go over to the Publix bakery, you'll see when you read the label, it's all in there. Well, what's better than that? Ezekiel bread. Why is it? What's up with Ezekiel bread? Well, it's a sprouted grain. So if it's sprouted and it's not made in a laboratory or a deli like Publix, then there's a good chance that there aren't going to be preservatives and all that. So I'm just showing you how do you go from bad to better, okay? And I don't expect everybody just to go cold turkey and cut out all the complex carbs, although it's not a bad idea. But on a once-a-week basis or so, I would say you're allowed to enjoy some of these complex carbs. But if you're looking to reverse diabetes or reverse your heart disease or fight off cancer, you don't want any of this stuff. I will say at the tail end of this rice spectrum here, you got Uncle Ben's and then jasmine and then brown rice. Over here you got buckwheat. Now buckwheat is not a grain. Buckwheat is more in the vegetable kingdom. And so it's a pseudo grain. So you're better off with that instead of, you get the grain texture but without the grains. And then how about pasta? You guys go to Olive Garden, right? What's a better option they give you at Olive Garden than the white pasta? The what? The brown pasta, the whole wheat pasta. At least it'll have a slower blood sugar effect. It's like your blood sugar won't spike so quickly. But what's better than that? Some of the vegetable-based pasta, maybe spinach or tomato basil. If it's vegetable-based, it's better. Is it void of flour? Is it flour? It's still flour enriched. So it's still not perfect. But there is a spectrum, there is some better, because I know there's many of you sitting in here who will not cut it out. And I get it. And it's okay. I'm just showing you what some better choices are, right? Are we all on the same page? Can we just be honest here? Yeah.
What about cauliflower rice?
Cauliflower rice?
Because I buy that and it's good.
It's still going to have, you have to look at the label and read what's in the label.
It's just cauliflower that's rice, put through a ricer.
But if it's all cauliflower, yeah, it's fine. If it's just put through a ricer, that's fine. But that's a good point that you guys bring up. I think, these questions that you guys are probably wondering about will individually be answered by looking at the label. My mom just came back from Spain. She had 2 weeks of that, that like radically advanced cancer treatment there, not conventional. all cutting edge, healthy stuff that really strengthens your body neurologically, physiologically, and really cleans you up and makes cancer, it's an inhospitable environment for cancer. So that's what people do to cure the condition. They could kill the cancer here with chemo and radiation, but that doesn't cure the condition. To cure the condition, you got to get healthy from the inside out. So she was over there for 2 weeks. She was in the clinic there for 2 to 5 hours every day. And along those lines, they taught her some important nutrition things. She gave up coffee completely. This was a 45-year addict. And she gave up sugar, cold turkey. All her markers are coming down. All her tests are reversing. And there's no evidence right now that she's got cancer. But one of the things that they taught her how to do was read labels. And my mom is not completely oblivious. Like, she tries to buy healthy stuff, although it's not the easiest thing to do when you shop at Costco. At least there was a concerted, target, an effort, right? And I'll go over there and I'll look at that stuff. I'm like, it's still way off the mark. But she'd come back now, she's like, I can't even shop at Costco anymore. It's just, she started reading labels. It completely changed the game for her. So, and if it can change my mom, it can change anybody. So I would strongly recommend that you guys start reading labels so that you can see, are there sugars in there? Are there ingredients that you cannot pronounce that were made in the laboratory? Okay, if the vast majority of those ingredients in the label you can't pronounce or are not natural, chances are it doesn't do well in your body, right? Right? So that's a good rule of thumb. Like, if God made it, you can eat it. Okay? If it was made in the laboratory, it doesn't belong in your body. And so, simple rules of thumb: learn how to read the labels. The more labels you read, the better you'll get at understanding what you're doing and the effect that it's going to have. Here's a correct food pyramid. Doesn't that look a lot better? So the bottom 60%, the majority of your diet should be what? Greens, vegetables, right? A lot of cruciferous vegetables, asparagus, kale, broccoli, right? And then still at the base, really, still part of that base, you'll see all the good fats. Some seeds, olive oil, coconut oil, and then you got your meats, your grass-fed meats. Grass-fed meats. Don't miss that, guys. Grass-fed's really important. Because if you ain't getting grass-fed, what are you getting? Hormones. Hormones. Who in here wants a hormonal imbalance? Not I. Turn to your neighbor and say, not I. No, but you're at the end of that food chain if you're not investing. Keyword, guys, investing, because the biggest objection is, it's so expensive. Yeah, if you're paying $7 a pound for ground veal or lamb or ground beef, and you're getting the hormone one for $4 a pound, it's going to make you think twice. But which is the less expense? Developing the disease and then treating it while you're eating, cheaper food, or spending the extra money preventing disease so that you don't have to have drugs and more doctors and more tests and all that stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah, when you go to Whole Foods, a lot of these places now, it says pasture raised.
Uh-huh.
They feed those grain. It just means they're out in the pasture for them. It doesn't mean they're grass fed.
So that's a good point. So just be careful. Yeah, buyer beware. If it says pasture raised, it doesn't necessarily mean grass fed. Yeah, so that's the operative word. So the meats should be grass fed. Your fish should not be grain fed. A lot of the fish today, farm raised, are fed grain. Believe it or not. Eggs, dairy, grass fed dairy. Then you got your berries. You got your low sugar fruits. More nuts, chocolate, cocoa, cacao. That's cacao. That's actually real chocolate. And there you have it. That's what a correct food pyramid looks like. So the bulk of all of our nutrition should be what? Greens and what? Good fats and grass-fed meats. Yeah. So when we talk about proteins, fruits, and vegetables, you'll remember that image. I want to talk to you about cholesterol. Coming back to this is really important because, a lot of patients will say, well, what supplement do you have that'll take my cholesterol down? And, at least I appreciate the awareness that, you understand the dangers of cholesterol drugs, statin medications, increasing your risk of cancer, increasing your risk of Alzheimer's, increasing your risk of joint pains. You guys know all that, right? Everybody knows that. So I don't want to insult your intelligence with that. But the question really I always throw back at you is, why would you want to lower your cholesterol? Why do you want to lower your cholesterol? Now, I'm not going to answer that right now. I just want you to think about that. Why do you want to lower your cholesterol? Now, you have the answer. You don't know the answer. You're only repeating a recording that a doctor gave you an answer for. But now I'm going to show you why. So this was a 2005 Boston University follow-up study to the Framingham Heart Study, which was the largest heart trial study ever recorded. They followed 1,900 men and women, participants with total cholesterol less than 200, okay? These participants, out of these 1,900 men and women, the ones with the cholesterol less than 200 performed less well than those with borderline and high total cholesterol levels between 200 and 239. The participants with the highest total cholesterol levels, more than 240, they scored the best on the cognitive tests. In other words, the lower their cholesterol went, the worse they did on the cognitive, on the mental tests. And what they measured were all of the aspects of what a person is compromised with Alzheimer's disease. Learning, memory, concept formation. In other words, the lower their cholesterol was, the worse they scored. Got that? Okay. So the people who had the highest cholesterol levels scored the highest on the cognitive tests. So what does that tell us? Well, it begs the question, is bringing your cholesterol levels down synthetically or with a supplement naturally the best strategy if you're trying to preserve your brain for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years? What do you think? Maybe not be the best thing. But then you still have anxiety, hanging on to what your doctor said. Well, but if I don't take my cholesterol down, my doctor is going to be really concerned. Why? Why? Why is your doctor concerned? Because why? Because your cholesterol too high could cause a what? Heart attack. Ask them to show you the research. Okay? Because the New England Journal of Medicine published this many, many years ago. They said high cholesterol is not an imminent predictor of a heart attack or heart disease. Inflammation is, right? So if your cholesterol is running about 300, 400, but on your blood test, your CRP, your inflammatory markers, are within normal range, are you at risk for a heart attack and stroke? No. The medical journals say no. And interestingly enough, again, journals published show that people with low cholesterol have just as many heart attacks as people with high cholesterol. And if that's the case, why would you want to take a medication that will cause cognitive decline? Does that make sense? No. So what is the dilemma? You don't want to be a good patient, or a bad patient. You don't want to disregard your medical doctor's opinion or their request. Right? I got it. I understand. It's up to you. Choice is up to you. But I'm just going to plant that seed and let it fester in you. And then as the days, the weeks, the months go on, you'll be asking me more questions, and you'll get more and more comfortable with the idea. And before you know it, you'll be able to have the courage and the boldness to stand in front of your doctor and say, I want to get off this. Okay? How much longer do I have to take this? And you keep persisting with that, and you know what they're going to do? What are they going to do? They're going to take you off. They're going to back down. And you know why? Because you're reading their medical journals, and they're not. And that gives you the right to ask intelligent questions. And that's why we're here tonight. Right or right? Yeah. So you have to look out for yourselves, guys. You can't just give them their responsibility. You can't give them the responsibility of your health. You got to get information from them, but ultimately you make the decision. Yes?
Is it true that they have bad cholesterol and good cholesterol?
That I'm going to save for our Heart Smart Nutrition Workshop. There's really no such thing as good and bad cholesterol.
I would tell me that my HDL is LDL.
Yeah, it's
is higher than the
right. The LDL is a low density lipoprotein. It's not even a cholesterol, and the HDL is a high density. And it's not so much the good and the bad or the high and the low. It's when they become inflamed and oxidized that it can cause damage. So again, it comes back to what we're learning here. If you can learn strategies to reduce inflammation, Got nothing to worry about. You don't need to worry about your HDL, your LDL. It all takes care of itself. Does that make sense? Okay, you guys are asking some good questions. So, time, cholesterol, 1984. That was the cover on the magazine. Right? What did it show 30 years later? Yeah. So they said 30 years ago, the bad news was all the hot foods high in cholesterol were giving you a heart attack or a heart disease. And what does it show now? Scientists labeled fat the enemy and why they were wrong. Hey guys, that was 4 years ago. So listen, if you're not doing this, you're behind. You're behind on the times. You need to start implementing this in your nutritional strategy. It's okay to eat bacon. It's okay to eat eggs. It's okay to eat a porterhouse steak every once in a while. Okay, so all these foods that are high in cholesterol, studies show does not raise your blood cholesterol. Now, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because this is all going into our Heart Smart Nutrition workshop in a few months. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you want your brain to work, prevent Alzheimer's, prevent heart disease, prevent cancer, you've got to start digging in on these fats. You really need to have fats for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. And I'm not preaching to the choir because many of you have sat through these workshops before and you're getting better at it, but you know you haven't arrived yet, right or right? You know there's always things that you can just tweak just a little bit more. So look in these labels and check and see. Look in your pantry. Look in your refrigerator. Do you have margarine? Do you have any synthetic butter? Country crock. And if you do, why? There's no reason for you to be using that stuff. It's artificial, and it causes inflammation in your arteries and in your brain. All of the fast foods, even Chick-fil-A, they cook it in peanut oil. It doesn't matter. Fast foods are highly inflammatory. They use hydrogenated oils and partially hydrogenated oils, cottonseed oil, soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil. You gotta be really careful when you go to the restaurants. Even if you go to Ruby Tuesday and they bring you the olive oil. Sometimes if you don't look, they bring you the oil and it's not yellow. It's not green. It's like almost white. What is that? It's corn oil. Yeah. So you're asking them for olive oil and they're bringing you something else. You have to stand guard at what you're allowing to go into your body. Otherwise it causes inflammation and allows these conditions to progress. And so look at all these things. Now these are toxic, guys. This is what's driving inflammation in our bodies and our brains, but the other thing that does is other toxins. There are heavy metals like aluminum, right? Lead, mercury, pesticides, herbicides, glyphosate, which opens up the blood-brain barrier. You know what glyphosate is? It's the active ingredient in Roundup. Yeah. Yeah. So anything that you eat with corn or soy, which is in which foods? What do you think? Almost all of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's another thing my mom said to me when she started reading labels. I can't believe soy, because soy feeds cancer. She can't come near soy. You can't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Soy is in everything. It's in everything, guys. And what do they put in soy? Glyphosate. It's the active ingredient in Roundup. When that goes in your body, it opens up the blood-brain barrier and it drives inflammation and it drives toxins into your brain, which do not come out unless you have a specific strategy to take it out. So this is all real stuff. Start reading the labels and looking at that. We live in this world called the toxic soup. The herbicides, the pesticides, your prescription drugs, lead-based. We live in a house with lead-based paints. We have lead in our cosmetics. 900 of the chemicals that they use in cosmetics were found in all the lipsticks. What is that? Amalgam fillings. Anybody have amalgam fillings? If you have one, you've exceeded the EPA's safety level for what's safe amount of amalgam or mercury in your mouth. Every time you brush, have hot liquids, you're vaporizing mercury out of the teeth and into your brain. It's a fact. It's already been proven. Many of our patients, we use a dentist who has a safe removal technique, and you can't just go to any dentist to take that out, but this is a part of what's driving inflammation in your body and causing you to accelerate the aging process. What's in your water? Chlorine, prescription drugs, birth control pills. It's in our public water supplies, guys. Lead is in our water supply. And if you think it's not, just go and do the research. And it's cumulative. It builds up. So all of these things build up.
There.
Yeah. Sodium lauryl sulfate is in soap, and it's also in toothpaste. That's the sudsing agent that you have. And it's been shown to cause cancer in laboratory animals. So that's why it's a good idea to get the natural kind of toothpaste, like Tom's toothpaste. So these are all things you would never know, but it's cumulative. All these things on a daily basis, all of a sudden you got more going in than coming out. I'll take one last question and then I gotta finish. Yeah, go
Thomas
ahead.
has been bought up by a big conglomerate, so it may not be as safe as it used to be.
So that's, yeah, then you might be right.
Vigilant.
I still read the labels, so the last time I looked at mine, it was still okay, but keep an eye out, it might change. So just throwing out examples, so, you know, one I'm aware of. So what are some signs you're toxic? Are you tired? Are you fatigued all the time? Are you brain dead? Are you depressed? Are you gaining weight that you used to be able to lose really easily, but you can't anymore? These are signs of toxicity. Now, there's a way to find out if you're toxic, how toxic you are, and what kind of toxins there are. There are specific tests that we have come to learn about and that we utilize now in the office. One is the visual contrast sensitivity test. So when you're toxic, it affects the optic nerve and your ability to discern contrast. And Deborah knows how to do the test, and you do one eye at a time, and you'll look and you'll see, and there's a certain point where you just can't see the lines anymore. And she knows how to read the test, and she'll tell you if you're toxic, how toxic you are, and what kind of toxins they are. Could be metals, could be mold. And then the other one is the meta-oxy, which is a urine test. And it basically measures oxidative stress, which is caused by inflammation. And so basically you go in there, a little bit of urine, and you put it in the reagent, and it shows us a color. And we've measured the color on a spectrum. So there you have the testing. And if the testing is positive, and you're super toxic, then we have a 90-day strategy that is basically it's very specific. But I'm not going to go into that tonight. But if that's something that you're interested in, speak to Deborah, and she'll tell you a little bit more about that. Or if you want to just get scheduled for the testing, she could set you up for a special time. Other than that, I can tell you some general detoxification strategies, which are really simple, just on a daily basis, just something general and gentle, would come down to just supporting your body's natural glutathione. Glutathione is the master antioxidant, the master detoxifier in the body. It recycles all the other antioxidants, and what happens is that when you're full of toxins, pollution, drugs, radiation, stress, trauma, bad diet, what it does is it depletes glutathione in your body. And when it depletes glutathione, it depletes your body's ability to detoxify. And when it depletes your body's glutathione, it also disables your body's ability to repair damage to the DNA. Does that make sense? And when the DNA is breaking down faster than it's able to be repaired, then you've got a recipe for accelerated aging. So glutathione is vitally important. There's a lot of studies emerging on this now. So this is what we need to find out, like how do we actually resupply our body's glutathione? Dr. David Williams was quoted as saying, we've already found dozens of ways to live an extra decade or two in good health, what we're talking about tonight, right? The easiest and surest way is to increase your body's supply of what? Glutathione. So that's how we fix it. What do we do to supply glutathione? The Ultraplex Complete Shake, you'll see up there, if you ever get a chance to read the label, it's a multivitamin, it's got a multivitamin spectrum in it. It's a complete shake, it's like a meal replacement. But within it, what you're going to find is that it's got detoxification support. It's got N-acetylcysteine, which helps to replenish and rebuild glutathione stores. Watercress, ellagic acid, sodium sulfate. So it's got a mild detoxification boosting system in it for phase 2 liver detox. And it's something mild, and it's something that you do basically on a daily basis, because if you're having this shake every day as a meal replacement, you're getting your multivitamins, all of them, and then you're getting your detox part of it also. In addition, what it also has is a cytokine balance. Cytokine's what triggers the inflammatory response. It's got supplements in there which actually help to balance that out and reduce inflammation. Another thing it has is gastrointestinal support. Why? 80% of your immune system is supported by what? Gut health. 90% of the serotonin, the happy, feel-good hormones or neurotransmitter, made in your what? In your gut. So how important is it to have good gut health? So all that is found in this. And that's why I'm bringing it up. That's the label. I mean, it's got more than you can read, but strong proponent of this product, because you don't need to take a supplement for this or a supplement for that. If you're looking for a multivitamin, this pretty much has everything. Plus, it's got 26 grams of protein, and it's non-allergenic pea and rice protein. So it's a vegetarian source of protein. It's got 18 grams of carbs, but only 5 grams of sugars. So again, you don't have to sit down and dole out your berries with this. And it's got 9 grams of fat, and 7 of those grams are medium chain triglyceride, which is fat-burning fat, right? That helps you create lean muscle. So with this, you don't necessarily have to do the almond butter and the berries. You just mix this maybe with some coconut milk or almond milk, put 2 scoops in there, and that's all you got to do. Now with the Metaclear, you don't have all the carbs and as much fat. So it's a little bit different. You really should be putting some berries in there and almond butter. Either one is fine. But with this, I'm going through this because of how it applies to everything that we're talking about tonight. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So basically, that's kind of what I went through. You can have it for breakfast. You can have it for lunch. Doesn't matter. You know, it's just it's a meal replacement, and it'll give you everything that you need as far as nutritional support. Vitamin D is vitally important also for what we're talking about tonight, because it's the #1 deficiency in the United States, especially if you're African American. Even worse. Raising the minimum year-round vitamin D3 level to 60 nanograms per mole, which would be 5,000 international units. Like, every time I get a blood test from patients, the doctor's always circling that. Remember, guys, I hate to hit on this, but for African American, if you must have at least 5,000 international units. Otherwise, you're going to get a blood test, and more than likely, it's going to come out in the low range. So I would recommend at least 5,000 international units for everyone, regardless, because they've learned this many, many years ago. It's not just for rickets and scurvy. This is what's necessary to prevent cancer. They said it could prevent 75% of the deaths from breast cancer and colon cancer year-round if people would elevate those levels to that. Simple thing, little tiny pill. I take one every day. Women who are deficient in vitamin D at the time of their cancer, 75% more likely to die from the cancer if they're vitamin D deficient than if they're not. And they're twice as likely to have their cancer spread and metastasize if they're vitamin D deficient than if they're not. Interesting, isn't it? Men who were classified vitamin D deficient in this study were 2.5 more times likely to have a heart attack than those with the higher levels of vitamin D. And then they found a study in the Journal of Geriatric Psychology and Neurology. They said that vitamin D can help ward off decline in what? In mental function. Wow, how about that? Did you know that? Did you know how important vitamin D was?
Yep.
Now you know. It's a good recommendation. Again, if we're talking about a preventative, proactive strategy to stay out of doctor's offices, off medication, out of hospitals for as long as possible, these will give you the best bang for the buck. Mariva 500 decreases body and brain inflammation. It's curcumin, which is a spice, and it's been shown in laboratory studies to halt the progression of cancer cells. And again, it's especially if you're having aches, pains in your joints, this, that. We always recommend therapeutic dosages. You know, like two capsules 3 times a day, or 3 capsules twice a day. Sometimes 3 capsules 3 times a day. So that may interest you if you got a lot of pains, especially in your shoulder, your knees, your hips. If you're arthritic, then that's something you may want to look into. Yeah. But either way, because of what we're talking about tonight, this is our supplement suite. You know, at the workshops, we put together the supplement suites so you can make application with what we're talking about. And the only time we ever discount the supplements is at the workshop. You can get a 20% off tonight, which is almost a $30 savings. So that's a big deal. And if you'd like to take advantage of that before you leave tonight, see them at the front desk and they'll help you with that. The supplies are limited. All right, another way that you can get a little bit of a discount is if you write us a 5-star review on Google or Facebook. That goes a long way with helping people make a decision to find a good chiropractor or a good doctor. And you really help people help themselves and get well when you do that. So that's why we covet that. And if you do that, then you can get a discount. We're happy to do that for you. So I want to take a quick break because I know that the mind can only absorb what the seat can endure, right? I'm going to call my dynamic staff up before you guys get up here. I want to recognize some patients here. Love doing this. Love seeing people come in for their adjustments. Love seeing people keep all their appointments. Love seeing great changes on their films, seeing people heal up. Got a wonderful group of people here tonight, so I want you to know that we love and appreciate each one of you. But there are a certain number of you here who we're going to recognize for doing a great job with your adjusting schedule. And when we call your name, we want you to stand up, and my staff's going to come around and crown you with a Medal of Honor. Gloria Ingleton, Beverly Scott, Una Hendricks, Hyacinth Miller. Give them a round of applause. Christine Howell, Joy Chum. Everybody give them a round of applause. Good job. Are we short one?
Nope.
Oh, you got it. Good. It was blending in with your shirt. My bad. All right. And I have one more. So this workshop award goes to an individual who's been to 6 or more workshops. This is our Elevation Health University Core 4 degree, because she's been to more than 6 workshops. And this goes to Alice Beneby. Stand up, Alice! Everybody give her a big round of applause. Good job, good job. Thank you. All right, I'm going to have everybody stand up and turn to the person on your right. And go ahead and put your hands on their shoulders and get that stress out. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze.
Where are you going?
You guys are doing a great job. Are you having fun yet? Oh, yeah. Almost. All right, karate chop. Good. Are you awake yet? Good. All right, let's turn around and love your other neighbor. Good. Get that blood going. Awesome. All right, karate chop. Wake up. Good. Good. All right, give yourself a round of applause. Heads up. Careful, it's coming at you. Heads up. Very good. All right. All right, so I am going to specially, just so we can finish on time, I'm going to especially request that if you have any other questions, respectfully request, that you just write it down and come up to me after, and this way we'll have a smooth finish there. And we got a few more slides to go through. Now, how many of you guys remember Jack LaLanne? Remember? Did you know he was a chiropractor? No. Didn't know that.
95, looking amazing. How do you feel?
I can't afford to die. Wreck my image.
Wreck your image.
What's he doing? He's promoting his book at 95 years old. Hello? Hello? All right. So what's one of the secrets to longevity? Always make your future brighter than your past. If your mindset is, oh, remember the good old days. Oh, remember back then it was this, or that was so good, or that was the best time of my life. That's a recipe for depression. No. The best is yet to come. Yeah, so you have to have something to look forward to. You have to have a goal, you have to have a dream, you have to have a vision for your life. And that's a perfect example. And one of the easiest ways that you can beat depression to a pulp and really be invigorated and just encouraged about life is being a part of a group of people, believers like in a church, being around one another, being encouraged by one another. But you can also start your day off with a ritual that'll change the chemistry in your body. And what am I talking about? Exercise. Yeah, exercise. Research shows that adults that engage, what's that underlying word right there? Consistent exercise program reduce their risk of developing age-related dementia. Why do I say consistent? Why am I harping on that and pounding on that? Why am I doing that? Because for exercise, for a lot of people, it's like a New Year's resolution thing. Well, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. It needs to be a lifestyle thing. What if your diabetes or your blood pressure medication was a New Year's resolution thing? Maybe I'll take it, maybe I won't. No. We exercise as a matter of responsibility for this vehicle and vessel that we get to rent while we're on planet Earth, right? You sitting there right here, right now, should be reminded of the fact that your body is not your own. You belong to God, yeah. So if we don't want to work out, that's tough luck. You know, it's not our body. We need to get this thing moving. We need to look at our body as a high-performance vehicle in order to get the most out of this. In order for God to use us at a greater potential physically, He can do a lot more for us when we're healthy, when we have more energy, right? He can do whatever He wants, whenever He wants, with whoever He wants. But I'll tell you this, it's a lot more fun when you have more energy. Right or right? Yes. So I can tell you, this morning, I did not roll out of bed feeling fit as a fiddle. Did not. Can't tell you why. I don't know. I just woke up this morning and I was not like humming like a hummingbird. I was like, whoa, I got a workshop today. Man, whoa, wow, this is not going to be good. So, thank God I have rituals. What's the first thing I do? I sit, I read my devotional, I read the Bible, and after that, I'll sit down, I'll pray for about 20 minutes, and after that, roll right into my workshop. I mean, my workout. Now, it just so happens that when I work out, sometimes I'll watch my workshops. How many of you guys watch my workshops? Did you know Dr. Yachter watches his workshops? Why? Because I'm not just a teacher, I am a what? I'm a student. If I don't watch my workshops, I'll watch somebody else's workshops or interviews. I have that monitor in my exercise room. But I just got going, and I got on the bicycle, and I rode the bike for 7 minutes, and then I started lifting weights. And 30 minutes later, 20 minutes later, I was done. And I went in, made myself a shake, took a shower. I got out of the shower. I forgot how bad I felt when I woke up. I walked out the front door and I shut the door and locked the door. I'm thinking to myself, wow, as bad as I felt when I woke up, that's how good I feel now. Completely different, completely transformed. Now, if I didn't have those disciplines, would I have that character? No. If I didn't have that character, would I have that life? No. So that's what I'm saying, guys. Well, a habit is, we become slave to our habits, for better or worse. Why not become slave to good habits? Because there's always good outcomes that come from good habits. And I thank God for that. I thank God for that. I thank God that I learned one day about obedience. You know, I learned about it from my parents, different way. There wasn't salvation behind that. There was this brute punishment. Yeah, I learned it that way. But then I came to learn the love of God, and I learned a different obedience. I learned obedience because I just want to be a good servant. You know, I want to just be the best I can. You know, I want to show up. I want to have energy. I want you guys to have a good experience. I want to put the needs of others before my own. I mean, what good am I if I'm broken and weak and tired and not healthy? I'm just like everybody else. I'm not putting myself up there. I'm just saying that, you know, what would your life be like if you did this? You know, if you woke up 20, 30 minutes earlier. So what? You're not tired. You think you're tired. When you get done exercising, you're what? You're energized. You're feeling good. Okay? So now, it's all in the mind, yeah. So it changes your physiology, guys. It changes your physiology. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to rah-rah. You don't have to mentally talk yourself into it. You just need to get your tail feather shaken. You just need to get moving. Whether you ride a bike, or you briskly walk, or you get yourself some dumbbells, go to the gym, silver sneakers. Does it really matter? No, it doesn't. Just do it. Just do it. Start skipping rope. Just do something, yeah. This guy's 105 years old. And they've come back to evaluate him twice. They evaluated him at 103, And then they evaluated him 105. And at 105 years old, guess what they found? He was actually more fit. He had more endurance. He had more VO2 max, which means he had a greater cardiovascular output and a greater ability to oxygenate than he did 2 years earlier. Defies all logic. He's rewriting the books on health and science, this guy, 105 years old. I think we're out of excuses now, aren't we? I don't want to beat that anymore. So the other thing we need to, thing we need to exercise is our what? Brain. When you stop learning, you stop growing. When you stop growing, you start what? Dying, yeah. So we always need to challenge ourselves. Read. That's why it's good to read, Read a novel or read a book or read the Bible or, do crossword puzzles or do Sudoku. Do something to challenge yourself, because when you think you're ripe, you start to rot. When I see professionals like attorneys and accountants and even some of my old family members who retire and they stop working, that's when they start developing Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and they start having all types of health problems. When you go into retirement, you take yourself out of service. It's a very dangerous place to be. Keep the brain going. You always have to keep challenging yourself. So keep coming to the workshops. Next month, our workshop is a little bit different. I know it says something else on the card, but next month it's going to be titanium immune system. How to build a titanium immune system. So keep coming back to the workshops. Every month we have a new workshop. You're always going to learn something new. All right, so we're going to kind of dovetail into how things are going to trail off here toward the end, but it's really important that you pay attention to this and understand what they're talking about.
Many search for the proverbial fountain of youth. You might be wondering, why do we age in the first place? What is it about our bodies or cells biologically that causes us to grow old? There's a variety of internal and external factors such as diet, exercise, or environmental stress, which all contribute to cell damage and repair and affect the rate of aging. But the surprising truth is that, apart from these, we actually have a biological clock buried within our genetic makeup. And this clock can only run for so long. In other words, we're programmed to die. Your body is made up of trillions of cells which are constantly going through cell division. And every time they divide, they make a copy of their DNA as well. This DNA is tightly packed into structures called chromosomes, of which humans have 23 pairs. The problem is, DNA replication isn't quite perfect and skips over the end of each chromosome. To protect against important DNA information being cut out, we have something called telomeres on the end of chromosomes, which are essentially meaningless repeats of DNA that we can afford to lose. But every time our cells divide, these telomeres become shorter and shorter until eventually they've been entirely stripped away, at which point the cell no longer divides. Some flatworms are able to endlessly regenerate their telomeres, making them effectively biologically immortal. But their lifespans do vary, and they're still susceptible to disease, further suggesting that aging is a mix of genetic and environmental factors. But why don't our cells do this? Ultimately, this replication limit actually helps to prevent cancer, which is the uncontrollable growth of cells and evasion of cell death. The point at which a cell stops replicating is known as cellular senescence. In humans, this replication limit is around 50 times. Once it's reached, the cell gradually begins to lose its function and die, causing age-related characteristics. This also helps to explain why life expectancy is a strongly heritable trait from your parents, because you got your initial telomere length from them.
All right, so the telomere length, telomeres, that's what determines how long you live, or when your candle your flame goes out, so to speak, right? So that's really important. Did you guys just get that? Did you know that? So the ends of the chromosomes, when they get shorter and shorter, when you lose the tips, that's it. That's the end of the game. New study just came out this year, as far as telomere goes, and the effect of chiropractic care. Watch this. It was published in the Journal of Molecular and Genetic Medicine this year. Recent research showed that there was a female under chiropractic care for 5 months. She initially came in for lower back pain. Her lower back pain resolved, but what they experienced was an increase in her telomere length following the 5 months of chiropractic care. It was the first documented evidence showing an increase in the telomere length. Yeah. So what does that mean about your chiropractic care? What is it doing for your life expectancy?
Extending it.
Yeah. It's helping with repair of your DNA. When you get your adjustments, it's helping to optimize genetic repair. Is that important? Is that valuable? What do you think that's worth? Can you put a price tag on it? If that could cause an extra 10 or 20 years, holy smokes, that's huge. That is huge. You know, so maybe that's the bonus for you. I don't know. Maybe your neck or your back is feeling better. Hopefully this is good news. Serum thiols, that's the level that they measure in your body for health and human status regarding disease. It's a 2003 study that they published in the Journal of Anti-Aging Medicine. And what they found was that the serum thiol levels reflect the DNA's capacity to repair itself. And they used it to measure aging and disease status. They found that in the cases where they measured these people, as far as 9 different categories that all had accelerated aging and disease, they had the lowest serum thiol levels. So based on this study, they know that the people with the lowest serum thiol levels age the fastest, die the earliest, and have the most disease diagnosed. Does that make sense? So the serum thiol levels are a pretty good indication of DNA repair if they're high up there. Study was done in the Journal of Vertebral Subluxation Research. They had 76 participants. One group received short-term chiropractic care, one group received long-term chiropractic care, another group received no chiropractic care. What did they find? Healthy individuals that received chiropractic care for how long? 2 years or more had the higher serum thiol levels than well patients or those with disease. In other words, the chiropractic patients had the highest serum thiol levels, higher than people who had no disease and higher than people who did have disease. So again, what does that say about wellness when you're under chiropractic care for long term, for a long time? What does it say? It's good for you. Yeah. So, you know, turn your power on. That comes obviously as a long-term study with 311 chiropractic patients, ages 65 and older. And these were people who were measured under maintenance care. What's maintenance care, guys? What's maintenance care? When you're just getting your spine checked on a regular basis, not because you have a problem, but because you want to what? You want to maintain, you want to stay at your what? At your best. You want to prevent sickness and disease and problems. That's what maintenance care is. So they tracked maintenance patients, chiropractic patients, for 5 years or more. And how do you think they fared out compared to other people their age who were not under chiropractic care? Much better. Well, what they found was the chiropractic patients had 60% fewer visits to the hospital, 62% less surgeries, and 85% less pharmaceutical costs. Wow. How about that? Gee, I only thought that you're only supposed to go to a chiropractor when your neck or your back hurts or when you have a car crash. Well, what am I showing you guys? Are any of the studies that I've shown you right now relating to back pain or car accidents? No. What are they relating to? Longevity, health, staying out of doctor's offices, off medication, out of hospitals. So if I had a pill to sell you right now, a supplement, how long would you be taking that supplement for if it could do that? You take it what? You take it forever. So how long are you going to have your spine checked for under maintenance care? Forever? Maybe, maybe not. It's up to you. You know, you only get your spine checked. It's like only getting your teeth checked. How long do you brush your teeth for? Or only, I don't know, as long as you want to keep them. Just brush the ones that you want to save. The ones you want to let rot and fall out, just don't brush them, you know? It's the same thing. So if something is good for you, why would you not want to do it ongoingly, right? You know, so again, it's never a cost, it's always an investment. What's the return on what you're investing in, you know? For a regular checkup, for everything that you're learning right now, is it just insanely, ridiculously, so much value that it's adding to your health right now? Yes? Yeah, so that's what I wanted you to learn tonight. So you all know about subluxation. You know, when people are not having their spine checked on a regular basis, the spine breaks down, it puts pressure on the nerves, and the confusing part for the public is they think that you're going to feel a pinched nerve, and that's when the signal is going to go to a chiropractor. And nothing could be further from the truth. Most of those nerves are not pain sensitive, but all those nerves go to all the organs which are going to help your body heal and function properly. And obviously, a body with this is not going to do as well without that, right? Mm-hmm. So I had a patient, just to give you guys an example, she was having some bad days, and she came in last week, and her husband's like, she's not getting any better. Well, look at her x-rays. Structurally, her spine is 90% better. Can you see that? Yeah, but she's not feeling better. Her pain is still there. Well, she told me she's actually feeling better. She's having a lot more good days. No, she's not getting better. Okay, I can't argue with them. So what do you want to do? Do you want her to quit care? Because, I mean, none of the doctors could help her. Complete medical failure. At least she's feeling somewhat better. But you know what? Let's say that we just quit the care, right? Her symptoms, let's say her symptoms didn't go away at all. Now, her nerve channels have been open for the last 90 days. Her spine is 90% structurally better than it's been. Her nerve system is 90% stronger. She's still in pain. Would you rather have the pain with the nerve channels open or with the nerve channels closed? Hello? Hello? Yeah. You don't need your spine degenerating and your nerve system shutting down on top of what other health problem that you have, right? Two different things. You know, if a person's getting adjusted, in my mind, I don't want you to be in pain. But if your scan is better, if your x-rays are better, if you're getting adjusted, there's no way that you can't be healthier. There's no way that your DNA can't be repairing and regenerating itself. There's no way that you're not at a stronger health status to be able to prevent cancer and heart disease and all these things. That's the mindset. That's Romans 12:2, right? That's being transformed by the renewing of your mind. Having a 30,000-foot view. Look at the bigger picture, guys. There's not a day that goes by that I live my life on this planet that my back doesn't hurt. That's right. I've got herniated discs, bulging discs, probably worse than some of you guys. That's right. I get adjusted once a week. It's not for my back pain. Although it does feel good when I get adjusted. It has not cured my back pain. Why do I get adjusted and why? Why will I continue to get adjusted for the rest of my life? Because of what? What you guys just learned tonight. Yes, because I'm investing in my health. Right? I don't rely on my health insurance or my doctors. I don't have any doctors. I just, yeah, I am the doctor. I make sure that I do all the right things. You eat good, you exercise, and you get adjusted. That's all the doctoring that you're going to need. And you have health insurance for emergencies. And that's what that's how it works. How you age is a choice. Journal of the American Medical Association published a study in 1957. They said, in general, there's a correlation in body what? Structure, your posture, your health, and your span of survival. Do you usually see people with this posture living to 100? No. Usually not. Usually the people that you see who are in their 90s, they have good posture. The people that you see hunched over on walkers and canes, wheelchairs, they're in their late 70s, early 80s. They don't go much further than that. It's a complete correlation with longevity. Living to 100, you have to have a good spine. And again, it's painful if you don't. So I want you to just listen to this and we'll wrap up.
Rosie, I just wanted you to tell your story very briefly. You came in here only a couple of weeks ago. You were referred in. And what was the diagnosis that you were given years ago?
Sclerosis scleroderma.
Yes, and how long have you been
very serious condition.
Living with that?
Since 2002.
And how has it affected your life?
Severely. I can't do the most simplest thing is dress myself, tie my shoelaces. It's hard to shower, hard to reach, clean my own legs.
And so you've been under care now for just a couple of weeks. What are some of the changes and improvements that you're seeing now?
Amazing changes. I can, with less difficulty and less pain, which was my main complaint, put on my shoes, dress my socks. I have more movement. I can actually feel myself being able to reach and wash my own back. I can carry out the garbage. I always had to call my neighbor to take out my can. I couldn't do that. Even cutting an onion was quite difficult.
I also noticed the circulation in your hands is improving, the color's returning.
Yes.
And things are starting to look better and better.
Yes.
So I'm just so glad that you're willing to share your testimonial.
You know, when I watch that, I'm just it just reminds me, you know, what a blessing it is that we just get to live our lives. You know, we take so many things for granted, and then there are so many people who don't experience that. You know, they can't trust themselves. They can't take out the garbage. They can't hold their grandbaby. They can't, you know, be intimate with their spouse. They can't exercise. They can't go on vacation. They can't go on a cruise with their family. They can't be with their family. There's so many people who don't have the ability to live their life because they've lost their health, and we take that for granted. And you know, when I took care of her, it was no different than how I take care of you guys. I don't try to cure or treat a disease. All I do is remove the interference from the nervous system, which is what controls function and healing. It's like going to the circuit breaker in your power panel and turning the power on. The power that made your body is the power that heals the body. But again, that's not a Romans 12:2. That's a Proverbs 14:20. Okay? So we don't think about that. It's what we think about is there's no cure. No, there is a cure. And it doesn't come in the form of another pill, potion, or lotion. It comes from the inside, right? The body doesn't need any help. It just needs no interference. When I move the bone, God does the healing. When I move the bone, God does the healing. It doesn't happen any other way. You just got to work the process and give it time. Now, if you're a guest here and you haven't had your spine checked, and that's something that you're interested in, normally what we do to evaluate a spine, especially if you've never had it done, what you want to do is you want to have a thermal scan. And the thermal scan will help us pinpoint where some of the problems are in your spine, stopping your body from functioning and healing properly, maybe causing some of the health problems. The scan on the left shows us where the problems are. The scan on the right shows us a normal scan. The red, the orange, that's up in the neck. Usually we see people with thyroid problems, tightness of the chest, short of breath. Those types of problems come from the neck. Sinus trouble, allergies. In the lower back, when people come in with problems there, usually see constipation, frequent urination, painful irregular periods, bladder infections, prostate enlargement, all types of things. And you know what? People never even put two and two together. So the scan tells us a lot. And then when we need to, we take x-rays, and we correlate the x-rays with the scan. And that allows us to pinpoint where the problems are in the spine and whether or not it's correctable. And that's what it looks like. And normally, the exam, the scan, consultation, the x-rays, it's about $350 or so. But if you're a guest here tonight, on behalf of the person who brought you in, we're going to offer you the opportunity to do that for only $40. And that is something that we very rarely do, especially include the x-rays. But if you're here tonight and you want to do that, you can make that appointment with Deborah. Can you raise your hand? If you're a guest tonight, make that appointment with Deborah, and she'll set you up for a special time, or we'll sit down, we'll talk, and do all the testing and see where you're at with your spine and with your health. The offer's only good for tonight. When I leave the building, the offer leaves with me. If you're serious about your health, make the appointment. If you're not serious about your health, love you just the same. Not a problem. Fair enough? Okay. What's that?
We lock you in.
Lock you in. There you go. Now the $40, most of you guys know we donate this to the Mission to Haiti. It's a mission we supported our church. We've been doing this for the last 8 years. That was from the 2010 earthquake. And every year since then, we've donated money to help restore and rebuild the village there. My oldest son, Josh, just got to go back recently last year and do some painting there, and it's really been a blessing. So whenever we have an offer like this, we always donate 100% of the proceeds. So you're welcome to do that. That's what we call a win-win-win. So other than that, make sure that you get credit for tonight's workshop. There's a limited supply of the supplements if you're interested in doing that. Guests, go ahead and make your way over to Deborah. And thanks for coming tonight. Love and appreciate you guys. God bless.